that an authorised officer, and by that I mean a police officer, may detain an individual at the command of the Commissioner of Police and force that person to be stripped and injected with a substance without the approval, without the agreement, without the informed consent of that individual. Now, that substance may well be a vaccine. Now, if you think this will never ever happen in WA, I have to ask you, why is it on the statute book? Why have we written into law something which we'll never ever use? It's there. We can use it. And if we can use it, sometime it will be used. And I find that particular precedent unacceptable. I'm not going to, as a policeman, stop me and force me to have something I don't want, even if it's in my own best interests. I'm a free man in a free country. This should not happen. And I note that there seems to be some understanding on the part of government that the proposed bill is unacceptable to public opinion. There's a sensitivity which is there, no doubt caused by the multitude of emails you have all received, as have I. The McGowan government, these are the very people who have told us throughout COVID to follow the science. Follow the science, members. Two choices. Simply, one, cancel the state of emergency. Go back to where it was with the Emergency Management Act and the Public Health Act, 2016. Or you could build on the experience, second, and create legislation to deal with future pandemics. With this bill, you have done neither. What you have done is to create a specific reference to COVID-19. You've placed it in the array of measures needed to manage an emergency and given power to manage a COVID-19 pandemic to the police. Now, the language of the bill is also misleading. Rather than using the correct title, Police Commissioner, we've got the title of State Emergency Coordinator. So it doesn't sound quite so police-ish, does it? Not the Chief Health Officer. This bothers me because the science behind managing a pandemic, and we're talking here lives and lives lost, this is not a minor thing. This seems to be actually devolved to people who are not competent to manage a pandemic. The Commissioner of Police may consult with the Chief Health Officer, but it is evidently clear he's not obliged to follow the directions of the Chief Health Officer. Now, if we protest this as being unacceptable, that protest goes to the Governor, who's actually an ex-police commissioner. And why would a police officer be given immunity for taking your car, for breaking into your house, for having the ability to commandeer your property? And why would a pandemic situation require your car to be taken by the police? And since when has it been the case, even in an emergency, that the Commissioner of Police, even with the permission of the Chief Health Officer, is given legislative power to demand a vaccine be administered to anyone without that person's informed consent? And yet here we are, in black and white, on the statute books, and about to be put into law, without the consent of the people who've been writing to me in their droves, and certainly without the consent of anyone on the opposition or on the crossbench. So I can't even begin to express my anger about this. You're riding roughshod over the rights of free people. The last time I decided not to save a life was at the scene of a motor vehicle accident. There's a young man very seriously injured, and the police who are attending asked me, "Doctor, shall we get the emergency helicopter?" Now, I am trained in this. I'd actually just the month before finished the training on specifically that question. And I said, let's call the helicopter off. Let's not bring the helicopter out. This man is not to be saved. So I let him die. He died in my arms. I'm trained in that. It was a waste of resources. This man was going to die no matter what. But the person who makes that decision needs to be trained. If you find a policeman saying, no, don't bother with the helicopter, we'll let him die by the side of the road, he may have made the right decision in this case. But how comfortable are you that a policeman makes that choice? So members, that's enough. There's not one of you in this chamber, apart from the Honourable Steve Thomas, who has had any training at all in infectious disease. So I could then say that everyone here is not actually competent to have a decision or make a decision based on this legislation, because you haven't been trained. This is new. You haven't got the experience. I don't know how many of you have held a dying person that they could have saved and let them die. I don't know how many of you had the experience I have had, or those who are involved in managing pandemics. But to then push this through without any experience, without any knowledge, put this in the hands of the police is, I think, an error of unimaginable proportions. And this is actually a matter of life and death. It demands science. It demands science, not politics. It demands that the police force and the armed forces remain subject to and at the command of government, and that they specifically do not command and control, but rather enforce and obey. We will take our seats again with a clear conscience, something I can only hope members on the government benches are also able to enjoy when this debate concludes.